Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the EEARSS Podcast produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. I am Frank. That is Cindy. That is Bill. How are y'all doing? How's it going, guys?
It's Friday.
Yes, it is Friday.
Praise God, it is Friday.
End of a week.
Anything? So I sent you guys a link where it was very sad news to hear that Dr. Meldrum had passed away. Man, that one hit me.
Yeah, I had no idea he was sick.
Well, he wasn't. It said it was sudden onset brain cancer. Just he found out about it, and that was when he found out it was pretty much done.
It's awful.
Yeah, I know before we had chatted with him the first time, he had dealt with some kind of crazy something that happened on a cruise ship, that almost cost him his life. Remember, we had a quick conversation about that, but he didn't think he was going to live through that. And to make his way back and recover, and then this happened was, it's quite a surprise.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a little shocking.
Yeah, he was the top of the food chain in the anthropology world, so it's a big loss to the community, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's been definitely thinking about and praying for his family. That's got to be a huge shock. You guys ready to jump into this? I'm overly excited.
Yes.
I stay overly excited.
Tell us about our guest.
So today on the podcast, we are joined by the Dr. Stephen Platt. Steve, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, Frank.
Thank you so much for taking the time. And man, it's kind of a blessing to catch you over here on this side of the ocean for a moment and be able to chat with you about all the interesting things you're up to.
Yeah, it's great to be on your podcast.
Steve, so the first time you and I met, I think, was in Argentina. We have a lot of friends in common, and a lot of those people have actually been on here and chat with us before about their careers and the things they're up to. You operate a lot overseas. Tell us a little bit about you and what kind of projects you guys are up to these days.
Okay, yeah, I'm originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I am right at the moment, visiting family. And I work for a Wildlife Conservation Society. We were formerly the New York Zoological Society. We're headquartered at the Bronx Zoo in New York. Although I spend next to no time there at all. I haven't been there in the past year. I'm formerly based in Myanmar, but I had to leave because of the Civil War. So I'm next, not too far away in Cambodia. But I spend a lot of time working in Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand. Still involved in Myanmar, the day-to-day operations, but I'm not there boots on the ground. And most of our crocodile work that I'm doing is in Laos. We work with the Siamese crocodile, and we have a really successful reintroduction, head starting and reintroduction program there. So I generally spend about 2 months of every year in Laos working on that project. So most of my work now is actually on critically endangered species of turtles. But I didn't get into turtles until later in my career. At heart, I'm still a crocodilian biologist. I did my master's work on American alligators here in Louisiana, and then I did my PhD work on Morelet's crocodile down in Central America, and then it continued on after I received my degree working with American crocodile in Belize. And it was only later after that I really got involved in turtle work. But I always, I really enjoy crocodilians. They were kind of my first love, and I'm fortunately, I'm able to still be involved with them. And also, the work we're doing with Siamese crocodiles is one of the most critically endangered species of crocodilians in the world. So I like to think I'm making some difference there.
Oh, there's zero doubt about it. I know. I think the ongoing term now was it 84% of crocodilians globally are critically endangered? Something along those lines?
Yeah, it could be. I know in Asia, just about every species in Southeast Asia is endangered, particularly mainland Southeast Asia. I mean, even, Crocodilus porosus, the Estuarine crocodile, which is very common in Australia, they've been extirpated, throughout Southeast Asia. Other than Myanmar, there's a population in Myanmar. So, yeah, I'm not familiar with the 84%, but that certainly sounds reasonable.
So what's the reason for that? Is it just, is it loss of habitat? Is it hunting? What's the reason?
Yeah, I can, it varies from country to country. In Southeast Asia, it's a combination of all of that. You have habitat loss. You have hunting. Siamese crocodiles, for instance, have have extremely valuable skin. And then there was this, move in the 1970s, 1980s to farm Siamese crocodiles. And so to get the brood stock, they collected them out of the wild. And that really cleaned them out because they were going after adult, breeders. And so, crocodile farming is the way it's conducted, in Southeast Asia is just it's a closed cycle. And so they're not, like here in Louisiana, in Florida, there's plenty of alligator farms, so they collect, eggs, thousands of, if not hundreds of thousands of eggs, and then but they have to return a certain portion of them to the wild, and they collect them out of the wild, so it's an open system. But you just don't see that in Southeast Asia. I mean, there are conservation benefits to the way alligator farming is done, and the way estuarine crocodiles are farmed, say in Australia. But in Southeast Asia, it's a closed cycle. You don't really have the governance in place. There's so much corruption; it would be hard to replicate. What goes on in the U.S. and what goes on in Australia there in Southeast Asia.
So let's go back in time here a little bit. When as a young man, did you see this kind of playing out the way it's played out for you in your career? Well, when did you first realize maybe crocodilians were a thing, and walk us through that path a little bit?
Yeah, no, I didn't. I always knew I wanted to do something with animals, and to be honest, I would have been happy, working with mammals or birds or just about anything. I have really diverse interests. But I've, always been fascinated by crocodilians. And, when I was growing up, I'm an old guy. I'm like, 64. I was born in 1961. Alligators were extremely rare. I mean, right now I can get on my bicycle and go ride to some ditches here in Baton Rouge and find alligators. But, I think I was probably, 12 years old before I first saw my first wild alligator. But I got really interested in them. I went to LSU and I took classes with Dr. Shawbreck, and he was, one of the early cohort of alligator researchers. And so, he kind of got me interested in it. And then I read Whit Gibbons' book, The Blood Runs Cold, when I was an undergraduate. I guess I was probably a junior or something at LSU, and I started thinking, there's a way to make a living doing this. And so that, kind of pointed me in the right direction. I knew I had to go to grad school. And so I lucked out with a project of alligators, and then I went to Australia, and I did a 6-month internship with Grahame Webb working on estuarine crocodiles. And that kind of, after I did that, I was kind of like, I've got to continue. This is what I want to do. And I've never been a strategic planner. All my decisions are on the tactical level, and so it's not like I sat down and thought about, okay, I want to end up working for Wildlife Conservation Society in Southeast Asia. Although if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, that sounds like a great job, but I had no idea how to get from point A to point B. I just got lucky. I mean, like Napoleon used to say, luck was the characteristic he valued in his generals. And so, that was, that's for me, certainly luck played a big, portion, a big role in getting me to where I am now. It's just, the opportunities were there and I took advantage of them. So, yeah, I wouldn't advise anybody to follow my career path because there really wasn't much of a path. Things just worked out, and I'm fortunate because, I've got a PhD, I published a lot of papers, and most people, and I'm an older, person, and they tend to move up the chain and end up, doing a lot of administrative work, and I have to do some of that. But I spend a lot of time in the field, and particularly on the crocodile project. And I'm not a person that can sit behind a desk for very long, and so I'm really fortunate. And then I'm, my employer still allows me to get out in the field and do a lot of field work. Otherwise, I think I'd just retire. I mean, I can't see doing this job without being in the field. So I've been really fortunate, in that regard.
I know a little bit about that. Yeah, it's you don't want to have to get out of the field if you don't want to. It's the place to be. Now, in these projects you have going on in Southeast Asia, can you break down maybe each of those countries and what's going on in each one of them specifically?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with in Thailand. we're working in a national park there, and we rediscovered Siamese crocodiles there in 2001. This is back in the old days when we used to have camera traps that film. I don't know if a lot of your audience is even familiar with film cameras, but we got there was a tiger survey team in that national park, and they got on the 36 exposures, and they had one extra, and on that extra exposure they got a crocodile on there just by chance. And so we did some follow-up survey work, and Thailand's always been really frustrating because we know there's a population of crocodiles there. But we just haven't been able, but they're not, it's a very small number. It's 3 or 4 maybe. And the female, that we occasionally find a nest. It's probably the same female, and the eggs are always infertile. And there's this bureaucratic inertia that's very difficult to overcome. And I'm more optimistic now because, I think the government is issued some decrees about restoring all in national parks. If a species was there historically, they need to, if at all possible, they need to be restored. And Thailand's the one country in Southeast Asia that they have extremely an excellent system of national protected areas and national parks that are on par with stuff you see in the United States. They're well protected. They take law enforcement seriously. They're tourist hotspots. You don't see that in other countries, but if they really wanted to do it, I think that the future of Siamese crocodiles really lies in Thailand. There's just been kind of this been just slow to get started. We're doing some work in Cambodia. We work. There's a population in the Cardamom Mountains where we're not working. There's another conservation NGO that's working there. But we're working in the lowlands. Some of those rivers drain into the lowlands, and we're doing a river turtle, Batagira finis, the southern river terrapin. We're having a lot of success breeding them in captivity and head starting and get them back in the river. And there's a few crocodile populations along there, but they're kind of stagnated. We're not seeing any growth, and we're we get the last clutch I saw was all infertile eggs, and that was 3 years ago. We hadn't found a clutch since then, so we're looking at some other options. Getting genetically pure Siamese crocodiles from some breeders, and we don't have the facility to breed them ourselves. And then head starting those animals and selecting some wetlands where they'll be relatively protected, and then releasing them in there. But I would like to release them in the Tonle Sap, which is the biggest freshwater lake in Southeast Asia, and probably historically, we know historically that the Siamese crocodiles and estuarine crocodiles were there. But Siamese crocodiles were very abundant, but there's this public perception that crocodiles are dangerous. And there's this, we haven't been able to get permission to release crocodiles there. But there's a huge farming industry on the lake, and the farmers are actually, they had this novel farming system there where they rear them in floating pens. And there's a lot of these pens, these crocodiles, of course, hatchling crocodiles are small, and they escape. And I think there's actually a population on the lake that's being, it's an inadvertent reintroduction where they're going out. It's not many. It's not a high-density population, but I really think that they're there. Now, they could be hybrids because they hybridize Cuban crocodiles with the Siamese crocodiles. It supposedly gives a better quality of skin, and also with estuarine crocodiles. So you have these bizarre hybrids. It could be a hybrid swarm on the lake. We just don't know.
Holy moly!
But we haven't been able to to move forward with plans there. But our real success story is in Laos, and there's a population of there's some wetlands along the Zay Champon River in central Laos, very close to Savannakhet. It eventually flows into another river and then goes into the Mekong. And there's a population of crocodiles there. It's not a protected area. It's a Ramsar site, but it's not legally protected. And the local people in the villages around this wetland, and it's an extensive wetland. It would take better part of a day to drive around the whole thing. And they believe that the crocodiles are an embodiment of their dead ancestors, and so they leave them alone. If you molest animals or even molest their nest, you can trigger all kind of divine retribution, and so they just have always left them alone. And so we got involved there in about 2010, 2011, and we started working with the local communities, assessing the habitat. And then when I first started back with WCS in 2011, we started collecting eggs and head starting them, incubating them and head starting them, and then releasing them. And unfortunately, the work was being funded by a large mining company as kind of a mitigation for environmental destruction elsewhere in the country. And they sold the company. The company was sold. New owners had no interest in this project, and our funding was terminated. And it's not a lot of money. I mean, I think we were getting like $50,000-$60,000 a year. I mean, that's the cost of one of those big tires that they put on those huge dump trucks they use in the mine. So it's not like they were saving a lot of money. But anyway, we went from about 2014 until 2019, and the project, nothing happened. We had to shut down. But we had established these relationships with the communities, and they were anxious to get us back. And so we got a new country director, and he wanted to start up the project again. So we did an assessment, and it was, of course, feasible. And so we've been going. We did our first egg collection in 2019. And then, we've been doing it ever since then. Of course, during COVID, I think we only were able to get 1 or 2 clutches of eggs. But 2022, it really picked back up. And we this year we've got too many animals. I think we had over 100 animals hatched out last year, and we've got to head start them. So this year we only collected half of each clutch and left the other half in and put camera traps up on the nest. And I believe I heard a couple of days ago, I think we've still got another 1 or 2 clutches that haven't hatched yet. But we have 61 hatchlings there. And the good thing is that we've had 2 instances of females that we reared from eggs and released in 2013 and again in 2014. And we found those animals on nests, reproducing in the wild. So it's, this is a long-term. It takes these animals, we think, in captivity about 9 to 10 years to reach sexual maturity. So you don't see results overnight. But the fact that we have had 2 females that we reared, it's kind of a proof of concept. We know it works, and so we've just got to, continue with what we're doing now. So, and it's been real well received by the community. Before we go collect eggs, all the people that work on the project, we have some permanent staff. Myself included, but all the people that go out and help us collect eggs and are always out there looking for nests. These are all local villagers, that we hire, and so they do a lot of the work. But before we go and collect eggs, it's really interesting because they believe that if you don't placate the spirits before you do anything, something bad could happen to you. And whether, some people may say, well, it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo, but whether you believe it or not, they believe it, and that's what's important. And so they usually kill a pig, and then we have a spirit ceremony where they more or less talk in tongues, and let the female know what we're doing and why we're doing it and what have you. And then we go collect the eggs, and after it's all over, we leave some of the pig for the spirits, and then we eat the rest of it. So it's an interesting cultural experience, but it seems to be working really well. And I think it's certainly a feather in our cap as far as community-based conservation is concerned.
Yeah, so we've talked about this with several other people on here before. Can you tell us a little about the importance of including those communities with this research you're doing and really having them involved? I don't think a lot of people really understand the true impact that having the locals in the areas involved in your research really mean to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, this isn't a protected area, and so the protected areas in Laos are they're protected in paper generally, but there's not a lot of boots on the ground, actual protection. But here we really couldn't do this without the local involvement of the local community. If they didn't have those beliefs in the first place, there wouldn't be any crocodiles left. And there's no other viable population of crocodiles anywhere in the country that we're aware of, simply because they've all been killed, or more likely they were captured and sold into Thailand years ago. And so, yeah, if the beliefs weren't there, the crocodiles wouldn't be there. And so, because it's not a protected area, there's no other legal mechanism to protect crocodiles. And so, if the community wasn't involved or wasn't enthusiastic, our task would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. And also, these guys, they're enthusiastic, and we pay them. I mean, nobody works for free, or generally, but it's not just about the money for them. I mean, they're part of a larger, organization, and they're out in the field all the time, and they're a storehouse of what we call local ecological knowledge, and they know where to find these nests, and they're out there fishing, and they see crocodiles, and so they're kind of our eyes on the ground. We can't be out there all the time, and we this isn't real high tech science. Basically to collect the eggs, all we need is a styrofoam box full of nest material and calipers and a scale to weigh and measure the eggs. And so, yeah, these guys are really the linchpin to the whole project. So if it wasn't for them, and they also own the habitat. They have they don't individually own it, but they own it as villages. So you have to get that community buy-in to do anything. So yeah, if it wasn't for the involvement of the villagers, it just wouldn't. This whole project would never have gotten off the ground.
Wow. So I know in the beginning you said there was one of the countries you had to kind of leave because there was an internal civil war going on?
Yeah, that was Myanmar.
Wow, okay. That's got to be a little bit sketchy, yeah?
Yeah, well, what happened was that we just, as an organization, there was a military coup, and as an organization, we can't remain working there. My wife still lives there, but I can't, go and work there. Very difficult for me to enter and leave the country. I'd have to go in as a tourist visa, and of course, on a tourist visa, you can't do any work. And so our partner organization, they do a lot of the, on the ground work there. So it makes it rough my personal life is quite complicated because, we can, she can leave, come and go as she likes, but I can't, I can't do that. So we generally have to rendezvous in Bangkok. We try to do that every couple of months. But yeah, she's still there, and she's still working.
Wow. Okay. Yikes, buddy. That's a lot to have on your mind.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. It's been going on now since 2021, and so you just kind of deal with it. I mean, it's either that or we just pick up stakes and walk away. But we invested too much time in building projects there, and neither one of us want to do that. And our Myanmar staff doesn't have that option. So we do whatever we can to support them, and hopefully one day I'll get to go back.
Yeah, we'll for sure keep that in our thoughts for you, man. That's a lot to be having on your mind. So looking back at your information you sent us early on, you were saying you had part to do with a project in China as well with a Chinese alligator.
Yeah. I haven't been to China in a while, since before COVID, but yeah, we were involved. Our organization was involved in the initial releases of Chinese alligators. There was a guy, everybody knows him in the crocodile world, John Thor Bjarnson, who was, unfortunately he contracted malaria in 2010 and died from the disease. But John was kind of my mentor as well as a good friend. He was the one that, he came to WCS in 1993, I believe. And I got my first year of funding from him in 1992. Went to Belize to do my dissertation work, and John came in as the crocodile guy, and then continued to fund me, and then eventually hired me to go back and do the American crocodile work in Belize, and then hired me to go to Asia in the late 90s. But John started a project there. We had a China program, still do have a China program there, and so John went and really brought together, a lot of Chinese biologists and Western biologists, and they came up with an action plan about how to get the Chinese alligator back into the wild. I mean, they're very easy to breed in captivity. I don't know what the numbers are now, but there's probably anywhere. When I was there was 14 to 16,000 of them on these breeding farms. Extremely, they're small. They're about half the size of a large adult is about 6 feet long. They just don't get very big, so you can pack them into the farms. But there are very few of them in the wild, and some of the habitat where they were was not very good. It was, upland. They were in these upland reservoirs above the rice fields, they weren't reproducing successfully. They were building their nest out of pine straw. There'll be pine plantations around the reservoir, and you just don't get, pine straw decomposes very slowly, so it doesn't produce heat, sufficient amount of heat to incubate the eggs. And so, John, they found a site near Shanghai. It's a created wetlands where the government, was building wetlands, and there's a park there, and he arranged for, I think there was initially 3 Chinese alligators, adult alligators from the farms, and they brought over 3 from the Bronx Zoo and St. Augustine Alligator Farm, and released them there and did the initial, telemetry work, and they kept it up until John's death in 2010, and then the project kind of languished, and so we got involved. They asked me if I was interested, so in 2014 I went back, and we resumed, working with the Chinese there to reintroduce additional alligators, and we documented that they were breeding in the wild, and we worked there for a number of years up until COVID, and so there is and I haven't been back since then, but there is a population in this wetland, this big park right outside of Shanghai at the mouth of the Yangtze River, which is much better habitat. It's all, open marshland, what you think of as typical, alligator habitat here in the States, and there's a population there that's breeding. So, that was a really rewarding experience. I'd like to go back. It's just, I guess it's kind of complicated actually doing work there. But my Chinese colleagues are continuing to monitor that population, and we've had several. I don't know if any. Well, probably some of the females that were hatched out and reared are now reproducing there, and so it's been it's a small reintroduction, but it's successful, and it has, because there's so much habitat there. It has a potential to eventually grow into a very large population. In fact, some of I just reviewed a manuscript about 4 weeks ago, and they did some population modeling, and they're actually recommending continued releases, but many more individuals that are then more put there in the in the past. And in sourcing those animals off of the farms is certainly no problem with the thousands that they have.
Good Lord, buddy, you've had an extraordinary career that's continuing. It's going to only grow from here. But I can't thank you enough for taking the time to chat with us and tell us about all the things that are going on, and just sharing a little bit of your life with us.
Yeah, sure. I'm always happy to spread the good word about crocodiles.
Yeah, there needs to be more of us doing that, doesn't it?
Yeah, they certainly suffer from a bad public reputation.
Yep, they get a bad rap all the time. Ain't many good crocodilian stories. When there's one that's there, you gotta run with it while you have it, for sure.
Yeah, for certain.
Steve, thank you so much for taking your time and really chatting with us. We sincerely appreciate it, and I look forward to checking up and catching up with you soon, sir.
Okay, sounds good, Frank, and thanks for having me on your podcast. Enjoyed it.
I appreciate it, sir. Be talking to you soon. Thank you very much.
Okay,
right,
bye-bye.
Bye. That guy's his passport must look absolutely amazing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it must look rather incredible. I think mine looks cool every now and then, you know what I mean? But I'm like, that's a whole different level.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was saying, he's one of the more interesting people, you could meet. The guy's had some pretty cool experiences everywhere. And it's neat hearing him talk about those beliefs the people in other countries have when it comes to crocodilians. That's a pretty common thing you see. And I will say, the people in the crocodile specialist group and people that work with crocodilians around the world, like Steve, are very open-minded to respecting people's beliefs, but you have to.
Oh, sure.
You have to. You can't tell them their
absolutely.
ideas are crazy.
No.
Because to them, our ideas are crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You have to. You're in their world. You have to respect what they're doing.
Right.
If they believe that's what needs to be done for you to do your work, you do what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's understanding seems to be a lost thing these days. Little compassion goes a long ways.
Definitely.
You guys got anything crazy going on the rest of the week? Any interesting weekend plans?
Look at me.
Cindy
Perhaps it was a top secret mission.
Cindy got shocked whenever you looked over there at her.
I do have very important plans.
Do you? What are you doing?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, you really?
Yes.
All right, jam up. At some point, I want to see what this is. At some point, I'm expecting an invitation to one of these. I want to see what's going on.
Oh, absolutely.
All you gotta do is give me a call. I know a guy who will drive himself to the situation and see what's happening.
There you go.
I've always been interested. Bill, you're heading to a game tonight, yeah?
Yeah, I got Titusville Highs playing Spruce Creek. And
Is that Orlando? Is it the other side of Orlando?
Port Orange, just in Volusia County.
Oh, it's right up the road.
Right up the road.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
About 30 miles
Spruce
up the road.
Creek.
Yep, Spruce Creek. And
A spruce is a tree, right?
yes.
Yeah. You
Yes.
should know that.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it together. The spruce is in the creek.
And
Is
then
there a
we've
spruce
got
in a creek there by the school somewhere?
there is a creek, yeah, that runs right through. You go over it on 95.
Oh, okay. That is Spruce Creek.
That's Spruce Creek.
Yes.
Oh, my garage.
You go
Okay.
over Spruce Creek, and then there's the exit, and then the high school is right there.
Really?
Yes.
That's a pretty cool place to have a school.
Yes. Yes, it is.
I
So-
didn't know, Cindy. I didn't
And then
know.
UCF tomorrow is playing North Carolina. Bill Belichick.
Is UCF having is the season going better?
Well, they've played two not necessarily difficult opponents, and so they've won. They're 2-0. This is their first Power 4 opponent.
Okay.
So it'll be a test. We'll see. I think they can win, but
I know I hear the kids on my football team talking about Florida falling apart.
yeah, Florida's
Yeah.
having a tough start. Yep.
I don't watch college football. You know what I mean? Other
Oh,
than
okay.
going to a game occasionally with you, I don't get a chance to watch a whole
Well,
lot.
South Florida, the Bulls
I
beat
heard.
Florida.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that was
I saw that one. on
I now
SportsCenter.
have reason to care about one singular
right.
One
sports
team?
You work
Yeah.
about FAU?
FAU won, and that's
Yes.
apparently that's a big
And
deal.
they're the
apparently.
Owls.
I have
correct?
just
They're
learned.
They're the Owls. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they have owls on campus. I understand.
They do.
They have burrowing owls on campus.
What?
Oh, okay.
That was the whole idea. From my understanding, they were named the FAU Owls because there's burrowing owls across most of the campus, and that's a very
Not surprisingly, they didn't point those out during our tours.
oh yeah. They're an interesting critter. They can be very territorial of their areas. They'll like dive bomb you and stuff.
Oh,
They're
one
like
of those
screech
things.
owl sized. You know what I mean? They're
Okay.
little guys.
Worth it.
But yeah, they're on campus. I mean,
So you need
they-
to try to find them.
they left a big
That's
portion.
what I'll be doing.
They
Yeah,
left- but-
Parents' Weekend. That's where you'll find
Yes.
me.
Yeah, they left a big portion of
Looking
the
for owls.
campus undisturbed just for the burrowing owls.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll have to send me a picture. They're pretty cool jokers. They're not hard to miss. They leave a little, they're like a gopher tortoise burrow almost, where they come and go in and out of the holes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a bird living in the ground.
Burrowing owls, yeah. That's
They're,
it.
I
they're
didn't know.
endangered, right?
Oh yes, yeah, very
Like
much.
very endangered.
In Argentina, ironically, the college campus I stayed on down there, they were all over the college campus. As you walk around, they'd jump out and look at you and stuff, and occasionally come after you. It was fun.
Wow. Okay. I
It's
did
a-
not know that.
They're a lot more common down there than they are up here, but there's quite a few of them across Florida.
We do have some in Titusville. I won't say where on the air, but I only know that because when we went to the Audubon Society place recently,
Indeed.
one of the women was telling us.
We have a couple areas across
Okay.
the Space Coast with burrowing owls, but it's not normal, and a couple of those are ranches out toward the river.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, for sure. All right, guys, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
So thank you all for tuning into the EEARSS podcast produced by Terrier TV here at Titusville High School. Sometimes I feel like that's a tongue twister. Sometimes I don't. It just depends on the day. Today, it seems to be a little bit, but it's okay. I digress. If you would like to learn more about EEARSS and the work we are doing, you can go over to EEARSS.org or .com. Or if you're just interested, you can go to Alligator Robb, that has 2 B's.com. It'll take you to the same place as those other 2 places. Why? It just does. Just the way it works. Don't ask questions about it. Just do it. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week. Bye-bye.